Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I can see a little bit of the list, but if you want to say hi, feel free. Like Ifat said, be sure to drop any questions you have in there, and I will do my best to answer them as we're talking. But if we don't have any time after or during the presentation, I'll answer some after the fact. So, do you want to give it a couple more minutes, or what do you think? Ready to go? Okay. All right, we're going to hop in. So, again, thank you for joining. And the topic of my chat today is your CEO has asked you to implement AI. Now, what do you do? I know this is a question that's coming up for a lot of people. So, today's talk, we're really going to cover what I want to give you is something that you can take away from this. So, I know we often go to webinars and, it's a lot of great information, but you don't really know where to start afterwards. So that is my goal, is for you to have a next step. Whether it's understanding the terminology a little better, but I want to level set first. So we'll understand what AI and Gen AI are. Then we'll talk about the state of AI and marketing. We'll also talk about developing an AI marketing strategy. So that will give you some specifics on where to go. And then we'll chat about running a successful pilot. But before we hop into that, I am going to introduce myself really quickly for those of you who might not know much about me. So again, I'm Sheena. I am based in Dallas. I have about 15 plus years of experience in marketing, which is crazy to say because sometimes I feel like I'm still 15 years old. I've worked in state government. I've worked for 2 startups, an e-commerce startup, a MarTech startup. I've worked for telecommunications. That was a large part of my career, and I am now in payments. So in my current position, I am the AI strategy and implementations manager for a company called NMI. And I moved over to the AI team about, 6 months ago. So one of the questions I always get when I talk about this is how did you go from marketing, which is a non-technical field, to AI, which is super technical? And in about 2012, I was working for a company called Metro PCS. In 2013, T-Mobile bought us, and everyone started really talking about data and what data could do for you. And so I kind of got interested in that. It's when marketing became more data-driven versus, have a gut feeling this is going to work. And so I thought, okay, I want to do something else. What can I do? Where is this going? So I looked at a program. I thought about an MBA, then looked at a program and said, okay, I think I'm going to do a master's in AI machine learning. The other piece of it was I just didn't feel like working anymore at the time. So I knew that if I did something in the States, I would have to continue working. But if I went out of the country, I didn't. So I actually did my master's in Madrid, Spain, where I moved to in 2018 and came back in 2020. And then I landed here. So a little bit about me, a little bit more about my outside of work personality. I'm a huge traveler. So you can see that there's a picture of me in Venice. There's a picture of me in Vienna. I love wine. That was on a wine tour. I love dogs. That's me and my parents' dog at a Mardi Gras parade for dogs. And then I'm a big reader, and I love pub trivia. So enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about AI. Again, I want to level set on what AI really is. And in a nutshell, it's really just the stimulation of human intelligence in machines. So it's kind of a similar process of the way we think as humans. So think of the process of learning, of comprehending, of problem solving, decision making, being creative, all with having some autonomy in the middle of it. And you can see there on the right that there are various types of AI, and I'm going to dig into a couple of these, 2 of these that I find really interesting. One is natural language processing, so NLP. If you are a brand marketer, if you lead a brand team, you've probably heard of this. And it is really the understanding of sentiment, so sentiment analysis. So you might use a brand tool to understand how people feel about your brand versus, going to the mall and surveying them, which is the old way of doing it. Or let's say you follow a business account on Instagram. Well, let's say it's kind of an opinionated business account. A lot of those accounts will have backup accounts, and that's because Meta also has a process of using NLP to understand what people are talking about. And you know that it's not always right. They'll get banned for no reason. So there still needs to be some human oversight. But that's really how NLP works. Another cool one that I really like is computer vision. So this is really just training a model with images instead of text. And I'll give you kind of a personal example of how I use this. I have become a plant person. I think this is what happens when you get older. Also thought it'd be easier than having a dog. Not quite. But I bought a jasmine plant and a foxtail fern, and immediately both started dying. And so what I did was download an app that told me that you take a picture of it and it essentially diagnoses it. And this is using computer vision because of the way it's trained. They have taken multiple pictures of the same plant, same diagnosis, and trained it to tell you this is what's going on. So that's the way that, computer vision works, an easy way to understand it. My fern is still dying. My jasmine plant is doing better. So, it's 50-50 sometimes. But today we're really going to focus on Gen AI. So I want you to think of each of these as a subset of the other one. If you drill down beyond overall AI, you'll see machine learning, which is really creating models and training an algorithm to make predictions based on data. So it encompasses a really broad range of techniques that enable computers to learn and make inferences based on data without telling it the specific task. So when we're talking about computer vision, it's using machine learning to understand what it's supposed to understand. Now, while machine learning only uses a couple of layers of neural networks, and a neural network is really just the term used to describe the human brain structure and function, deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning, is a little more nuanced. And here you see this little image where it shows you deep learning has more input layers, and then it has a bunch of functions in between. So it goes through more thinking, and then you get your output. So if you're an overthinker like me, you're probably using a little bit of deep learning when you think. So one more layer down, which is where we get to Gen AI. And this is what the majority of the population uses. And this is really when AI became popular, when this was available. And it's really creating original content. So videos, audio, long form text, all from a user's prompts. And that is where an LLM lives. So you probably hear LLM, which is a large language model. That's what it is trained on. You're using an LLM in these Gen AI tools. So that's all I'm going to say about, the overall AI. We'll move into a little bit more specifics of AI in marketing. First thing though, every time I talk about this, I talk about how I get asked, is AI going to take your job? And I'm going to tell you no, AI is not good enough to take your job. Here's an example why. So the picture you saw earlier, this is me. I kind of look like this right now. This is me. When I created this presentation, for whatever reason, I wanted the images to be Polaroid images. And so I threw those into ChatGPT, threw it into Claude, and asked it to create Polaroid. When I threw it into ChatGPT or DALL-E, this is what it gave me. So this is not me. I don't think it looks like me at all. So you can see they got the dog right, they got the Mardi Gras parade right, but they did not give me right. So this is just an example of, it's not going to take your job. Another example, this is a fun one everybody internally at my company likes, is counting the R's in strawberry. So if you ask it to count it, it tells you 2 R's. You say you're wrong, ask it again. It's like, oh no, you're right. It was 1 R. Ask it again. Is it the same number of B's? No, it's 2. So again, it's never going to take our jobs unless I'm really bad at spelling, but I think most of us can spell strawberry. So I think we're going to be good on that realm. So let's hop into AI and marketing. Here, I just wanted to share a study about AI and marketing. And at the top, what you see is that AI marketing is the function that's really leading in organizations as far as AI usage. And it's because of a lot of tools have been implemented there. And there's a lot of activities you can do with marketing and text generation. Research has also shown that marketing and AI can generate the most value in an organization. So it's obvious that's why people start there. But As we move forward and we talk about strategy, something else to note, which is at the bottom, and by the way, this is a McKinsey study. You can pull it up when we share the deck later. What you see at the bottom is that only 16% of respondents have said that there are 2 or more use cases of Gen AI within the function. And it doesn't delve into why specifically in this study, but if you read a lot and you read a lot about why people aren't using it, there are a few reasons that come up over and over again. One is a lack of education, a lack of awareness, a lack of understanding, a lack of training, a lack of strategy. And so it's really just people kind of being afraid. And as a woman, I'd honestly be remiss to not mention that 48% of women versus 37% of men mention that the reason they don't use AI at work is because of lack of training. So if you think about a field like marketing, which is very woman dominated, it's really important that we're all using AI to not only keep the organization relevant, but also to continue to be relevant within our fields. And yes, organizations have a responsibility that if they want you to use it to provide training, but you also have a responsibility within yourself to ensure that you're taking the opportunity to learn it, especially with some of the tools that are out there that you can easily hop into. So it's just something to keep in mind. But how can AI be used in marketing? Let's talk about this. So I broke it down into kind of each department within marketing and how we can use it. And I wanted to start with product marketing. So product marketing, you can generate product descriptions and dig deeper into that and, segment some of those product descriptions. As far as analyzing customer feedback. So I know a lot of software companies use G2 and you have a lot of reviews. So where your G2 rep can send over those reviews, you can pop these into ChatGPT or Claude and have them summarized, what the feedback is, categorize that feedback, and then help you with product recommendations. You can also look at predicting industry specific trends. So it's all about, again, the data you give it to get the output you want. If we were to look at demand generation, you can look at lead scoring leads based on data and behaviors. Personalized pages for account-based marketing. If you've ever undertaken account-based marketing, you know that it's not just throwing in a list and sending in some ads. If you want to do it well, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a really heavy lift for that. And AI can really make a difference in some of that content creation, some of that duplication you might need to do because you're doing something across verticals. There's a lot of opportunity there when you implement an ABM strategy. And then everybody's favorite, A/B testing. Everybody wants to do A/B testing. Everybody says they're doing A/B testing, but how are they really doing it? And AI can really help you with this. If we were to look at content marketing is a perfect use case, overall content creation, personalization, and SEO optimization. Field marketing, tailor event agenda. So if you get a pre-show list, you look at all the titles, throw in those titles. You can say, hey, AI, ChatGPT, Cloud, what are these titles? If you were to aggregate all of this information, what are these people talking about? What do they want to know? And then, you create your event agenda or your talk to make sure you draw in the most people because you're talking about what they really want to understand. Some other instances or examples are batch scans for conversion tracking, and then personalizing your follow-ups. And then brand marketing, as we talked about a little bit ago, monitoring that brand perception, and really making sure that everybody's communicating with the same voice across the brand. I know that brand marketing directors struggle with that, so this is a really good way to have that handy for everybody. So now let's hop into creating an AI strategy. Again, this is where I want you to be able to take something away. And here we'll talk about just, defining the business goals. So I pulled up 3 goals. We're going to walk through those 3 and look at how we can align those 3 with AI. So the first one is going to be customer acquisition. You can leverage AI for targeting marketing campaigns. Again, if we go back to ABM, you can talk about verticals, overall ABM, engagement, etc. There's so many ways to use it. Pay media management to optimize your overall ad spend and increase conversions. So here's an example of where you can take an ad that you've written and it's done well, and you can throw it into ChatGPT, say, hey, this has worked well. Can you create more? I remember a while back, I wrote some ad copy, and it literally said, understand what customers want. I was in a rush. We all know that really says nothing. But I gave it to our ad agency. We ran with it. 3 weeks later, she's like, Sheena, this ad is performing better than anything else we're running right now. So you can take that ad and say, hey, this is what's happening. Give me a little more, make it a little better, improve upon it, iterate. And this is really great for creating responsive ads in Google, or, copy for your LinkedIn ads, or, the large blurbs that you have to write. That's a really good way to use this. We've talked about lead scoring and segmentation. It's another good way to use AI. You can run models to ensure that the leads that you're bringing in really match the ones that are converting. And then increasing website traffic. So let's say you have really, really, really great blogs and they drive a lot of traffic for your company because you're looked at as a thought leader. You wish you had time to write more. Using AI can really decrease that time to being able to produce that blog and increase your output. So let's look at customer retention. Customer experiences. You can personalize these customer experiences. So say the first thing you want to do is implement a chatbot. That's a pretty low lift way to implement AI. There are chatbots out there that will personalize the experience based on the customer that lands on their website. So obviously, you have to have this information in your CRM, but let's say Sarah goes to somebody's website. Sarah's had 3 conversations with reps, but still on the fence. You see that Sarah landed on your website. You want Sarah to go to a person immediately because it's top of mind for her right now. And you want to give her that experience, that kind of white glove sales experience. So that's one way you can use that. Predictive analytics to anticipate customer needs. So, somebody may be coming in and you have a customer similar to them. How did that process go for them? And then follow-ups and reminders. This is usually a CSM or sales task, but depending on the organization, those two can kind of sit with marketing. So let's say you invite an agent into your meeting and have it take notes. It summarizes those notes using something like ChatGPT, and then you can throw it in emails. I was a CSM for a year after I got back from Madrid, and that was one of the things that took up a lot of time, is sending those follow-ups. And there are tools that will even kind of read those follow-ups or write those follow-ups for you. It will pull out those details and say, this is what this person is responsible for. This is what the next person. And then understanding product requests. Let's see, brand awareness. Not going to dive into this too much because it is a lot more straightforward. But one of the things that I like when it comes to brand awareness is that it takes away some of the emotional connection to it. So if you've spent 3 weeks or a month working on a white paper and you put it out there and it doesn't perform well, you're going to be very hesitant to pull that out when it needs to be pulled out. You don't want to pivot because, you've spent a lot of time on it. If you can cut that time down, you can cut it down to a week and a half. You're probably more likely to be a little more realistic about its performance. And so, it takes away that unwillingness to pivot. All right, so I have a question over here before I move to the next slide. I am going to read this. Is audio content a significant part of your AI-driven marketing strategies? If so, what tools do you recommend for creating and optimizing audio content? How is audio used effectively to engage audiences and drive sales? It's not a huge part of our strategy right now, but what I will say, and I think a great way to use this is, let's say you have blogs or white papers. I really like mixed media to make things more accessible. And even when I read articles on some of the news sites, it'll allow me to say, okay, listen to this article instead. I think that that's a really great way to do it. And whether you can record somebody speaking and pull that audio out. And that's just so people can incorporate it into their actual day. We do have a podcast at our company. And so that's sort of a way that we use it as well. And I think that that's another great way. I mean, I use Descript a lot to edit down those. So it's kind of a video audio combination, but that's how I would say, that's what I'd say a good way for optimizing audio content. And then another one, which tools or platform? Oh, okay. Well, that one got, oh, no, sorry. Which tools or platforms do you use to conduct A/B testing on YouTube videos? Are there any specific features or integrations within these tools that make the process more efficient and insightful? I'm going to say no, there are no tools that I've used yet, but let me think about this one for just a second. Creating to conduct A/B tests on YouTube videos. I mean, I really think it's kind of the same as, running an ad. So I know there's the process of running, YouTube ads within Google. I'd say the same thing. You put it out there, you see which works best, and you pull it back. I know that's traditional A/B testing. So I think the better way of thinking about AI in this, and there are tools. I will tell you, I do not know every tool. I was actually going to mention that at the end. It's very hard to know every tool, especially because I don't work for an agency, so I'm not working across a lot of clients. But I think the best way to think about it really is, how can we create YouTube videos quicker so that if they don't work, if they don't perform well, then what are we going to do? How are we going to iterate? Can we put something else out there? So I'm not looking for a tool to tell me how to A/B test, to put it in a tool to run that, because Google doesn't have the ability for you to create separate campaigns. I'm looking for a tool to help me create more content so that when something doesn't work or when something does work, I can create something like it or something completely different. I hope that helps a little bit. So we're going to keep going. Taking your general business goals, which we just talked about, and making them a little more specific. So the way I want you to look at it is, I have my goal. I have to tie it to KPI, because a goal without a KPI is just a dream. I need to do that. When I tie it to KPI, I then have an activity that I want to tie it to. So let's look at leveraging AI for targeting marketing campaigns. That specific KPI, we want to engage with 40% of more accounts in new verticals over the next year. How am I going to do that? So that's kind of the pattern. The goal is, measure it this way. How am I going to do it? The activity would be create industry-specific content, like white papers and landing pages. We've talked about how you can do that. And when you're looking at this, let's say, again, because I said new verticals, we're taking the ABM approach. You have to create multiple assets, but not only do you have to create those multiple assets, you then have to, let's say you're advertising this on Google, you have to make sure they include the keywords that you need, that are ranking high, that people are searching. And that's not easy to do. You can integrate, and if you don't find a tool that you can integrate, you can help with content creation, but there are tools that will integrate with that. You can pull in SEMrush, so you can say, okay, these are the keywords that are ranking, this is what I need to pull in. That's one way that you can do that. Another, enhance lead scoring with the intent of improving lead to customer conversion rate by 15% in 8 months. And what does that activity look like? So you're going to develop and integrate predictive models for more accurate scoring and segmented leads. So just another way that you can do that. And you can do it without buying the tool that, let's say, your CRM is Salesforce. Oh, you're welcome, Fernanda. So let's say your CRM is Salesforce. You don't want to have to buy every tool, every integrated tool that your current tech stack is using. You can take one tool outside of that and make it work for multiple things. Another example is driving website traffic. The goal, the measurement, increasing organic website traffic by 30% over the next 6 months. And what does that activity look like? Create and optimize SEO-friendly content. Again, we've kind of talked about how you can do that. I won't dive into it so much because I want to make sure that we get to everything. But yes, you can use any of these tools to create SEO content. Same, I won't talk through each of these. I'm just going to kind of pull them up. So kind of the same thing on the customer retention. One of the ones I like is to better understand customer product requests. You want to decrease that time from customer feedback to product implementation by 10% quarter over quarter. But you really need to be able to identify, what that looks like. It's kind of like you don't want to play a game of telephone because I'm going to come to you. My favorite customer has told me XYZ. Am I telling you exactly what they're saying, or am I kind of just, relaying what I want to relay? So you really have to think about that as well. That's a really good way to be able to go and pull that customer conversation so you hear it bite for yourself. I'm going to pick up a little bit. So let's say you have decided that you got your goals, you know what you're supposed to do. Now you have to decide how you're going to do it. And this is where you want to know if you're going to build or buy. First, before I jump into that, I want to give a huge shout out to this community that I'm in. It's called Women Defining AI. And it's started by two women who really wanted to make sure that women, because, they say they have a lack of training, have access in training to be able to be a big part of this field. So if you're looking for someone to join, a community to join, and you're a woman, this is a great place. But I want to just kind of take you through this decision tree so you can decide, should I buy or should I build? I'm going to go to the right first. This is an internal use case, and let's just take one of those content examples. You need to increase productivity of your content team. If you go to the left, you'll see, let's say you use ChatGPT. Prompt engineering improves your quality, improves the efficiency. You're good. You're good to go. You can partner with OpenAI, which is who owns ChatGPT, or Anthropic with Claude, and you can say, this is who we're going to use to build out content. But be sure to build templates, build workflows. Don't just say, hey, everybody, go use it. If you go to the right a little, let's just say it does increase the speed, but it doesn't increase the quality. Well, this is where you might want to look at a solution that's specific to content, that you can add some context to it so that it produces the quality that you need. If you don't see an improvement at all, scrap it. You don't need to do it. But if we go to the left, this is a customer-facing use case. So this is where product comes in. They're giving you your feedback. You have the problem. First, you want to look at the business impact. Let's go to the right. Not mission critical. This customer, I don't know, is $20,000 in ARR. I mean, depending on your business, that could be great, but we're going to assume that's not great. Let's say, it's not a top priority. So you can either deprioritize that, or you can find a tool that maybe can do it with $1,000, and then it might be worth it. So that's how you will look at something that's not mission critical. But if you go to the other side, let's say this is something that's really going to move the needle, really going to impact KPIs. It's going to impact a customer that has 100,000 ARR. You can then go to having your engineering team prototype this. So what you look at is a traditional LLM, large language model, like we talked about, and that could be using OpenAI's API. And it might have the capabilities you need. It might allow you to fine tune it, put some guardrails on it, and you're great. So you've decided you're going to partner with OpenAI, but you're going to build a front end, which is a lot easier than building a back end too, and you're going to go that direction. Let's say OpenAI isn't good enough. You need to train a lot of internal data. Finance is a really great example of that. You can either deprioritize that, or you can build out your own solution. And that's where it gets really complicated. But as we move forward, I want to talk about buying a tool. So on the right, you see a very small example of all the tools that are out there. There are actually over 5,000 tools that are available right now. On the left, you see a GIF that I really wanted to include in here because I miss seeing this dog all over Instagram. But I mean, this is kind of how you look when you see a list of tools and you're like, I don't know where to start. There's so much going on. So you really just have to stay focused to what's relevant to your industry, relevant to your marketing team. That's what's important. So here you can look at the enterprise horizontal piece. That's things like, you'll see kind of some of the bigger ones like Jasper, Copy AI, you've probably heard of. Google Duet, you can see that this is a little bit older because they are now Google Gemini. But those are things that can be used across different functions. You'll also see here on the right with the vertical, those are really more for, vertical specific industries like healthcare. So Yes, there are 5,000 tools. There's a quicker way to narrow it down, and that is where you want to start. So now that you want to narrow down your solution, you've got that list. It applies to our vertical. We're going to use it across a few of these. You can look at kind of 4 different ways of looking at it. So the first one I call adaptive, which is kind of your general AI. Not very integrated, not very specialized. You don't want to make a big commitment. I'm sure the first one that comes to mind is ChatGPT, and you can see you got ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. With these, you're able to add internal resources. Let's say we take ChatGPT, you can build a GPT, add those internal resources in there to tell you, to give it the context, kind of like if you had an intern or an entry level employee, and it will help you produce these tasks a lot quicker. If you go down, this is what I call co-pilots. Don't confuse that with the actual tools called Copilot that Microsoft and GitHub have, but these are really just assistants within the tool that you already have. So again, Gemini can actually be a Copilot as well, but they're fully integrated into the software, but they have a little bit of specialization and personalization, and they're typically pretty easy to implement. It can be a little bit of learning curve, but you can usually get a rep to help you with this. Then you have the specialized section. So those are designed for specific tasks. So when we kind of talked about this content thing, you're not getting the quality. This is where you would want to go specialized. When you've identified the need and you want something that it's going to be a little harder to integrate into your system, but it's going to be really made more for you. There are some downsides, which is like there's the custom out of the box. Sorry, you have your out of the box options, and then you can customize it a little bit. So that, like, you kind of have to pro and con that, but for the most part, this is really going to be able to help you with your specialized tasks. And then you have your custom AI, which over here you see core AI, huge lift, all the personalization you want, all the customization you want, and you really want to use these when you have identified a strong need, something that's really going to move the needle for your business goals. Final considerations, security policy. If you don't have one, make one. Make sure the vendor meets those standards. Make sure you've communicated the security policy to your team. If it meets the standards, then maybe you can put, product related code in that tool, but that doesn't mean you can't try other tools. So say ChatGPT meets the standards, Claude does not, you can still use Claude. Just make sure you're only using public facing information with that. Can it help you reach more than one goal? Does it integrate with your current tech stack? You don't want to have to buy a tool and then not account for having to buy something like Zapier to make that tool work with everything else you're using. Onboarding. What does onboarding look like from their team? You might not have the money to pay for white gloves, so you want to keep that in mind. Is your team big enough to get the most out of the tool? We purchased a tool. It's an amazing tool to help with analyzing the website. Their onboarding wasn't a great one, but then 2, we realized we needed a lot more people to implement that tool. And I mean, that just didn't work for us, and we didn't consider the team size. Will you have to change anything about your current business? Is it scalable? So will you be able to use it in more than one place? And then their roadmap. We know that roadmaps can change, so you can't always rely on the roadmap, but are they moving in the same direction that you think you're going to want to move? Because each tool is going to have a different vision for what they're going to do, and their roadmap will give you an idea of that. And lastly, when you're doing a pilot, these are just some things to consider. Obviously, it's making sure if the tool is right for you. So you want to have clear objectives. This kind of goes back to tying with your metrics for success. If your goal is to produce more landing pages, then those metrics need to be, I can produce X number of landing pages in a specific amount of time. And make sure that pilot is long enough for you to be able to really understand if you can do that. Is it improving efficiency? So to measure something like this, you want to take a survey before, take a survey after. Make sure you can make that business case. Training plan, kind of similar to onboarding. when you have a limited amount of time to pilot a tool, you want to ensure that that learning curve isn't too high so that you can get enough takeaways and it doesn't take away significant time. Technical setup, you may not be able to be fully integrated, but are you integrated enough to get what you need out of it? Engaged group, this is huge. A lot of people say they want to be a part of a pilot and then you don't get feedback from them. So make sure you have an engaged group. If you can, make it across multiple functions if it's relevant, and include as many different functions as you can. And then the continuous feedback loop. Don't wait until the very end to get feedback, because some of that feedback may show you that you need to bring in the vendor team, and they will always help you because they want to sell the tool. So to wrap up, one of the things, well, just a couple of things. First, I hope you feel like you know more. You can walk away, you know where to start. You can start something for your organization. Second, I want to emphasize that learning how to use AI effectively is the important part. AI alone isn't going to do this by itself. And last, you'll never know everything about AI. So, one of the questions I couldn't really answer about YouTube, and it's because AI is always changing. It's moving fast. You can't do everything. My knowledge is really at the intersection of AI and go-to-market. You might find yours at the intersection of somewhere else. It's not as straightforward as marketing usually is, but don't let it stop you from trying. And that is all I have for you today. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, join the demand community, learn more about women defining AI. Those are all great opportunities.
Love this, Sheena. Thank you so much. We've got a few questions in the Q&A section if you want to go ahead and answer those.
Okay. In your experience, how do you decide between producing content at scale versus focusing on creating highly unique content? What factors such as audience size, niche, or brand goals influence this decision? So whether you produce at scale or whether you focus on creating highly unique content, I think that the goal in the end should always be to create highly unique content. But it really goes back to, what your goals are when we were defining those business goals. So let's say lagging indicators or leading indicators show that if your website traffic is at a certain level, then you're going to hit your lead numbers. Well, then you want to produce a lot to get more people to your website. But let's say you have a more technical product, or something that requires a lot more thought, like a larger committee, or a lot more thought process in buying. It may be important that your quality is higher because people are going to spend a lot more time on that decision. So again, kind of looking at your leading indicators. Audience size the same, because you can only serve so many impressions to certain people in like Facebook and LinkedIn. If you have a really small audience size, then continuously producing content that you're serving but they're not engaging with isn't going to get you anywhere. So you really have to weigh the pros and cons and understand like what with your business, what gets you the results. But I mean, if you kind of look at it as producing at scale, then you really get to understand what people really enjoy and what they are consuming. And then you could move towards that highly unique content. Let's see. What are some AI tools for marketing that you wish existed, especially those that could automate the mundane tasks you currently have to do? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how AI could further simplify and enhance your marketing workflow. I think building agents. So we kind of talked a little bit about that. So an agent is just kind of like a personal assistant, and we've been building a lot of those in ChatGPT. So it's giving it the context so you don't have to consistently give it the context. If I could do anything, I think really not necessarily lead scoring, but understanding the behaviors more. So tools that help with that. I mean, I'm getting a lot out of what what is out there, because it has already helped me increase output. And before I left the marketing team, it was helping that way. But some of the things that I have given the marketing team are like our brand guardian. So they don't have to go in and find the tone and the style and the voice until they're writing tools this all the time. Our product marketing team now has a GPT that helps them write with precision, but it also pulls in some of the content that's already out there, so it knows more about the product. So these are just little ways that we've worked with our marketing team to help them be more successful. I hope that helps. I'm always seeing new AI technologies and use cases in the news. Is there anything new that has you particularly excited? Actually, yes, there's one I just saw this morning. So Will I Am created kind of a chat GPT, but it is for a different voice. So it's for a more urban voice. And the reason he said he did it is because he said, I don't understand why AI tools have to sound this certain way to be considered smart. And I love that, because one of the things in AI is there is a huge bias, because it only understands based on the data it's trained on. So if it only has one set of data, whether it's about a certain demographic, whether it's only about men, then it becomes only beneficial in those contexts. So I really loved this, because it really should be for everybody. And if somebody doesn't feel comfortable, or doesn't interact in a certain way, it still should be able to provide them with what they need. So I think that one has me really excited. I haven't even got to try it out. I just saw Jimmy Fallon interview that I want to use. Oh, and I want to use it. Another thing, and it's really more of use cases, like Claude. Somebody showed how to build a flow chart in there. So it'll provide you the code, and then you can take it over to something called Draw AI and have it draw out the flow chart. So the time you're taking in Figma to draw this out, you can have it done in, I don't know, maybe like 20 less minutes. I have a sleep related podcast with 63 billion downloads, and I'm looking for ways to monetize it without using audio ads, as they disrupt the user experience. What are some effective strategies I can use to generate revenue while maintaining a seamless listening experience? So I assume you're saying that you don't want the audio ads that are part of it. I'm going to tell you that this is not my domain. But if you send EFOT an email, we can talk through it. We can brainstorm. I'm happy to hop on with you and chat about it. But off the top of my head, I'd really have to think about this one. Oh, one more. Besides ad copy and keyword selection, how else can AI contribute to successful Google campaigns in B2B? I mean, I think that's where I've seen it the most, and being able to reproduce or being able to produce at scale, just because you're looking at quality score in a lot of Google campaigns, but it also allows you to try some of the different types of campaigns. So whether you want to try YouTube campaigns, whether that might work better for you. Responsive ads sometimes are better than text ads, although they may have gotten rid of text ads since I stopped doing demand gen. I know there's going to be a lot with generative AI overviews, and that's going to be important in being able to show up with that. So you're going to have to produce a lot more content, not necessarily from the ad side, but from the SEO side, to be able to show up in some of those intent-based questions. So, yeah, I think it's really being able to produce more content to be able to rank in those questions, and yeah, that sort of thing. So I think that is everything, Ifat. We got all the questions answered.
Yes, all the questions answered. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining. And thank you, Sheena, for this amazing session.
Thank you.